To my younger self, you have grown a tremendous amount throughout this past year, and you have had far too many sleepless nights. While everything you have found comfort in completely vanished, you were given the opportunity to see and experience things you had not been exposed to. As I have matured, I have come to realize that despite all of what I have been through, nothing will kill me like I think it will. It may hurt a bit more than I anticipated, but I always seem to forget that survival is second nature. It's muscle memory. The person you see before you is not the same girl that expected everyone to be inherently good. I'm not like that now. I know that people change and promises are broken as quickly as they are made. I know that you can't change or help time, so every now and then it will just run out. I was 9 years old the first time I realized that time would not be on my side. It was a Sunday afternoon, and my dad and I were on the way back from a basketball game in a nice neighborhood. I hadn't made note of it at the time, but in this area it was out of the ordinary to see a black man driving an expensive car. Needless to say, we were pulled over, and my dad told me that whenever I am in this situation, turn off the car and place the keys on the dash and put your hands on the steering wheel. Ever since that day, I've always been quite aware of not being in the wrong place at the wrong time. My mother had always told me since I can remember, make sure you're always doing what you need to so no one has anything to say. I hadn't thought about this much then because it was somewhat of a mantra she preached, but it wasn't until I had been in a rough neighborhood and I was stopped for jaywalking that I realized it was in my best interest to not be doing anything that can be interpreted as suspicious. But I am not a sinner. I do believe that there is beauty in this world despite all of the horrific things that happen every single day. My father had always raised me to appreciate what we had because we have far more than many. Our family could afford to send my brother and I to private school, and while this in and of itself is a privilege I was granted, at the time I felt as though we didn't have much in comparison to my classmates. They would get BMWs and Audis for their Sweet 16s, and I would have to mow the lawn every Saturday. I was one of the few students in the school that wasn't white, and it wasn't until I attended the school that I was suddenly responsible for answering any and all questions on behalf of my entire race. I was expected to know every dance routine and be able to rap on cue. I was amazed that in a city so close to New York City, they still didn't have much of a concept of diversity. And it wasn't until my sophomore year in college, in the predominantly white town of Amherst, that I realized the gathering of myself and my other black teammates is intimidating to some and warrants questioning depending on the time of night. I am an African-American female born in France to two Ivy League educated African-Americans. I did have the privilege of my parents being able to raise us in a safe community as well as the privilege of receiving a private school education. However, this is just on paper. If I walk down the street at 8 p.m. in sweats, I am simply an African American walking around in a town that has little diversity. And I should not be startled if I am questioned by an officer. One thing my mother had always taught my brother and I is to smile at everyone regardless of whether or not they smile back. I'd made this a habit, and I found that in many cases where I would possibly be perceived as intimidating, smiling would make me appear to be less so. I do feel that we need to make tremendous strides in order to have equality among all races in this country, but the lack of immediate change does not make me cold. John Steinbeck once said, "It seems to me that if you or I must choose between two courses of action, we should remember our dying and try so to live that our death bring no pleasure unto the world." Thank you. Have a good day.